Hello everybody, it is Saturday the 29th of February, and I want to talk about, what do I want to talk about? The truth of who we really are, what we must remember that we are, how we were divided by artificial constructs, and I really want to talk about the truth that is in this book, because this is knowledge. This is the knowledge of us and how to manipulate us. I mean, from the beginning, God wanted dominion over this world. This is a blueprint for conquest through the knowledge of humanity. And as I said, we must remember who we are. I just watched a video of Navajo wisdom, which really plainly said the truth. And that is a spirit that is given to humanity by the evil one, and that is the spirit of the victim, the spirit of the complainer, the spirit of the one that does nothing but just sits there and howls. Again, it says in the book of the Revelation, there is the truth. It is the absolute truth. The book of the Revelation is a depiction of us being conquered by a force that is not of this world. Okay. And the angels come, the armies of heaven come to slaughter. Yeah? And they create famine and pestilences and weather changes, weather manipulation. It's all in the book of the Revelation. And man is sitting there blaming God. Yeah? And they will blame God, and they will not turn from their sin. That's what the book says. Man will sit there and complain and not blame God and not turn from their sin. What is their sin? Where have they missed the mark? They don't know who they are. They've missed their own truth. That is the mark they have missed. They are the spirit of the victim, of the complainer. And the third part in the Navajo teaching was laziness. I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, not wanting to get off their arse, can't be bothered. I'd rather sit here and howl. But that spirit is given to man by the evil one. That's what the Navajos say. And it is. We've been driven into this, into the victim mentality, which is a slave mentality. You know, it is like humanity is going to be enslaved. Many on a spiritual level are slaves already. They are the consciousness of a slave. Yeah, the material just hasn't fully materialized yet, but it will, because the spiritual is already there. So, if we don't miss our mark by being a victim, then what are we? And humanity has always been a seeker of solutions. We've always faced problems. Humanity throughout its entire development has encountered problems. And we've found solutions for life to continue. Solutions that will serve life, for life to continue. And it is as Jesus said, seek and you shall find. What is it you're seeking? Are you actually seeking the solution to the problem, or are you seeking the one that will do it all for you? Again, the ones that seek the one that does it all for them, they are the victim mentality. They are the slave mentality. I need somebody who does it for me. Say they're already enslaved in spirit. So, yes, let's find solutions. Now, the biggest problem is obviously our division between us, that we can't come together because one cannot actually do it. Even the one great leader is not doing it by himself. He does it because everybody else does as they're told. But they are doing the works. Yeah, it's not like the leader is doing anything other than bellowing out orders. And everybody goes, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. So the coming together. And there is a story in the Bible that shows that clearly. And that is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I want to show you this here. You've been told a completely wrong interpretation of what's happening there. I've heard Jordan Peterson, who was also going into religion for some reason, and really useful idiot, completely useful idiot. Blabbing out what he's been told and not seeing the truth in what is actually happening in that story. Now the two cities, I would say they were independent cities. There were many in that area that were at the time servants to an Elohim, whatever they were, beings not of this world. Abraham had made a covenant with an Elohim and was now in service to the Elohim. People knew that. Yeah? That was, let's say, the politics of the world at the time, involving most likely aliens. Okay? Just picture, just down to earth, picture that. Not as in, all the way up there, spiritual beings. No. There were aliens in this world, and there were humans that had made covenants with them, and with the servants of those alien beings. Yeah? So the people, I would say Sodom and Gomorrah were independent cities, which wouldn't have pleased the Lord at all, since he wants to be ruler over all. Anyway, but they had a guy living with them, Lot, and they knew he was a nephew of Abraham, and they knew what Abraham was. Yeah, but still, they let him live in their city, and they were kind of integrated. His daughters were about to marry local lads. And then all of a sudden, these angelic beings march into the city, walk into the city to Lot's house. Now they knew them, that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah knew them. They knew what they were. Again, in the book, it says, it's interchangeably, it says man or it says angel. They're the level of man. They are like us, but they are angelic. That is, they are the ones that will mindlessly follow orders. They are the servants of the Lord. Yeah, they will do as they are told. That's the angelic part, when you have denied yourself and you follow orders blindly. So that is what they were. And were they human? I would think most likely not, because people could distinguish them from humanity, from themselves. They knew what they were, just to look at them. So anyway, so these guys go to Lot's house. And all of a sudden, by the evening, the entire city, or the manfolk of the city, is outside. And here comes the bloody idiotic teaching of they were all trying to have sex with 4 men. Yeah? Because Sodom and Gomorrah was such a sexually immoral city. Bloody hell. I mean, either they were sexually immoral, or, if they're all outside trying to have sex with 4 people, they must have been desperate, meaning that they weren't getting any. There must have been great desperation. Nonsense. We want to know who is there. Now, again, the word knowing in the book has got a spectrum of meaning. Most Hebrew words have. And it goes from the lowest, which is having sex, to the highest of spiritual knowing. Yeah? And everything in between. So when they said, we want to know them, yeah, that's what they wanted to know. Who are they? What are they doing here? What are their intentions? They didn't trust those guys. And rightly so, as it turned out the next day. But, and here comes Jordan Peterson, because it says all the men are out there, and they are of all ages and of all quarters. Yeah, that is important. That is very important. And Jordan Peterson goes, and that was a total breakdown of society, and well, yes, in a way it was. Because of all ages and of all quarters, that was the way they were divided. Ages, obviously division of ages, and most likely at that time the elders were actually the leaders, those that had some life experience and knew what they were at, they were actually the leaders. Imagine that. So there was that division, and then there was the division between the quarters. Quarters were trades. You had the quarter of the coopers, the quarter of the potters, the quarter of the sailmakers, all of that. Those were, and the different trades would have been valued in different ways, which is again idiotic, because the scribes might be one of the highest, and then you have the laborers, but of course without the sailmakers, without the boat makers, without the farmers, the scribes would starve. Obviously they hadn't thought that through at that time. Still, that division was there. Yeah, the division into quarters, which was most likely by trade. And all of a sudden they were out there in unity. Okay, the societal structure had fallen down. They were united in their humanity against the threat. All ages, all quarters. That is what happened. They were united. And that is what they absolutely do not want you to see in that story, what actually happened. They were united against the threat, and the society structure had fallen away, and it had created unity for the purpose of survival at that time, yes. So that is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Forget about sex. I mean, that is so stupid, it's unreal. And I might think about another thing. If that is how they greeted strangers, yeah? They were cities. There were caravans of tradesmen going through the city. Do you think if the tradesmen thought every time they entered into the city they would get gang raped, they would actually go there? City wouldn't have functioned if that is what they were doing. Stupid. So it was the falling together of societal structures and the coming together in unity against the threat. That is what happened in that story. And that is what they must absolutely prevent from happening. And that is the truth they cannot let us see. Now, is that spirit, and that is the human spirit. It is the spirit of solving problems. It is the spirit of coming together to create, to help each other, to bring every part brings a bit of their knowledge. Is that spirit dead? And no, it is not. In fact, you can see it working every time there is a disaster. If there's an earthquake, your buildings have collapsed, and all of a sudden you will see people of all quarters digging through the rubble together. It happens every time. People with suits and ties will dig next to people in laborers. They will come together to save life. That happens every time there's a disaster. Humanity will unite. Societal structures will fall away. They will fall away until the emergency services arrive. Yeah? That is to say, the powers that be take over again. Yeah, and say, get out of the way of the experts or whatever. And you will see those people that were working side by side leave the side and form their groups again. Yeah? Ties, suits and ties will stand with suits and ties, and the laborers will stand with laborers. So the spirit of coming together is not dead. It is there. It is the natural instinct to do that. And that is, again, what we need to remember, who we are. That is our truth. So, and we are under threat at the moment. And as I say, many have become the spirit of the slave. The mind, the consciousness of a slave. Yeah? For myself, I can do nothing. Jesus must come and save me. Something must come and save me. I blame the evil one in the astral zone for all that is happening. I'm missing my own mark completely. Sitting on my ass howling. I'm a being that can actually do something, innovate, come together. That is who we are. No, we're missing that mark. We just sit there and howl. And here is really the last thing. And that is that we have knowledge. We have knowledge, each and every one of us. Some more than others. But we all know something. We all have something that we can bring. Yeah, it is not for one to do it all. If you thought for one moment it was all up to you, you would falter, you will falter. Because no, one is not all. One does not know all. Yeah? Seeking to know all will fry your brain. So don't even go there. But know what you are and know what it is you can bring in cooperation with others. Do we need our leaders? And then really look at the skills. Look at the skills that our leaders, our esteemed leaders actually have. I mean, look at their truth. What they're good at is denying themselves and following orders. That is their skill. And that is why they are in service to whatever is behind all of this. That is what makes them the perfect servants, of whom God, I dare say, is exceedingly proud. But that's all the skill they've got. They know how to lie. They know how to suppress their own conscience. They've overcome their own conscience, many of them. They no longer think for themselves. They no longer feel for themselves. They do as they're told. And they're being greatly rewarded by the looks of it, so that they can do whatever they want. Sexual depravity, greed, lust, whatever. Yeah, they're being rewarded by that. They can fully live out whatever twisted thing is in them. And that they would be above the law. There would be no comeback. That is their reward. Right. So if you look at that, being twisted, being depraved, but knowing how to follow orders, that is not a survival skill. If that's all you've got and everything was gone, you could not survive with that. They could not survive. There's nothing you can do with that. Apart from being able to do, as I said, keep their head down and during the day and live out whatever during the night, they probably couldn't boil an egg to save their lives. They have no other skills. We do. We are the ones that have the skills. We are the ones that find solutions. We are the ones that do the works. We don't actually need them. They are totally surplus to the requirement. But as I said, in times of great tribulation, people will come together and cooperate in service to life. And if we remember that that is who we are and that we can be that without tribulation, I mean, why on earth do we need the tribulation to come together in that way? If that is our natural truth, why are we not just that all the time? Yeah? Why are we in times of peace, we revert to the slave mentality, let somebody else do it for us, and it takes tribulation to wake us up to what we actually are. And that is where the blinking up and down is coming from all the time. Yeah, we fall asleep, we wake up again. We fall asleep, we wake up again. But that is the waking up to our own truth. That is what we must actually see. We don't need them. We are the ones that have the skills. We are the ones that can do the works. They have no skill. They have no knowledge. Yeah, they have desire and they're able to suppress their own conscience, and that's it. That's all they are. So really, get out of the victim mentality. As I said, the Navajo teaching said, and I think that is actually the truth. That mentality was given to man by the evil one to make you weak. We were divided by the societal structures that are not natural. That makes us weak. We were divided by the wrong judgments of each other, which makes us weak. Say, if a tribulation comes, we probably revert to our truth. We most likely will, we usually do, but it shouldn't take that. We should know that all the time, and then it's said the evil one would not even get on in. We would be one. Then we would be truly one. Not all the same, diverse, which is good because we need diverse skills to build the whole, but one in the desire to live, in the desire to have family, have friends, do the works, yes, but also experience joy. That is who we truly are, and that is what we need to get back to. And I said again, this book is full of stories. That is the knowledge of us. It contains the truth. You just need to read the stories correctly and be of sound judgment of what is good and what is bad and not. Again, the way you've been taught is good and bad upside down. If God says it's good, if God orders you to bash babies' heads against rocks, glory, hallelujah, his will must be done. Yeah, wake up. Be of sound judgment. Know that we are the finders of solutions. We are survivors, we always have been. And we will do so through cooperating. We don't need them at all. We are the ones doing it. Anyway, here folks, I leave it at that for today. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.